You guys ready? Yep. Thanks. Good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Oshtemo Charter Township Regular Board Meeting of June 24th, 2025. This time I'd like to call the meeting to order and invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have item number 3, remote location identification for remote attendance when permitted by statute. Trustee Cole will be joining us late in person, and seeing the rest of the body present, there is no need for remote location identification. Item number 4, Township Mission, Vision, and Core Values. I would welcome a member of this body to share with us a core value of the township.
I'll take that. Core value, providing the best value-conscious technology currently available.
Thank you, Trustee Chapman. I think our IT director, John, likes to hear that. Item number 5 is approval of the agenda. You have the agenda before you this evening. I have 2 changes, but does anyone else on the board have any additions or changes to the agenda in front of us? Okay, then I would like to amend the agenda on item number 7, Legal Department, under our work session. The Legal Department will be presenting their AGVs in July, so they're so expansive and detailed that we need to move it to July. And then secondly, I hope you all received the email I believe I sent yesterday with an additional budget amendment from Oshtemo Fire Department. Did everybody receive that? Okay, terrific. So those are my changes to the agenda.
Where do you want to put that budget amendment?
It will go under item 10, please. Is there anyone wishing to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll move we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Sikora and a second by Trustee Ford. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6 with 1 absent. Next, we have item number 6, which is our public officials and community partner updates. And I know that we have, Jane Ghosh is stuck in traffic on West Main. And I presume she's on West Main. I guess I shouldn't assume that. So she will be joining us. So if it's all right, I'd like to move ahead in our work session to the achievement goals and values presentation of the assessing department, building department, and ordinance enforcement department. And then if we have time before 6:30, perhaps we can allow Jane from Kalamazoo Discover to share some information with the board. So as we move into the work session, I know we've been together as a working group for a number of years now, but just as a reminder and for the public, each year at the beginning of the budgeting process, each department head spends time reviewing their achievements, their goals, and their visions. Their achievements are sharing with you the accomplishments that they made in the department from previous set goals. The goals section is how far they are in the progress of their 2025 goals. And then their visions presentation is where they really see the future going and their future needs. And this is important in the budgeting process because it will be particularly the visions. Certainly, we want to celebrate the many accomplishments of our excellent department heads here at the township. But as we move into budgeting, the visions are really going to be important. And I encouraged and am pleased to say that all of the great work the board did and the department heads to update our capital improvement plan, all the department heads reviewed that capital improvement plan, and then we identified whether in the 2026 budgeting cycle, whether or not it was appropriate for them to put that capital improvement into their visions. So I felt like some parts were aligning a little bit finally, so that was really good. So at this time, I would like to invite our assessor, Christine Biddle. Christine, if you would be so kind as to introduce yourself to the board and share with the board what you have. Oh, there's Jane.
Yeah. I'm Christine Biddle, Township Assessor. As many of you know, stuff doesn't really change in assessing. We're so mandated by the state. So I'm going to go through the accomplishments because that pretty much takes you through the assessing process. And then we'll talk about the goals and vision. Let's see here. Continue to review our neighborhoods and make adjustments accordingly. Continuously improve and update our standard procedures in the department. We appraise and assess all taxable property, including new construction and ensuring the taxable value and capping of property following transfers of ownership. We prepare and maintain the assessment roll, property classifications, property descriptions, special act rolls, and other assessment records, and have established a procedure to update records on a regular basis. Also, each year, we do a 20% reappraisal or drive-bys of property within the township. The state recommends a 5-year rotation schedule. For 2024, we visited all commercial industrial property. In assessing, we also administer the Land Division Act, such as lot line adjustments, splits, combinations. Also synchronize GIS into the assessing software. Can always continue to work with Attorney Jim Porter to resolve Michigan Tax Tribunal appeals. Last year, we had 5 total appeals. 3 were commercial and 2 were residential. All but 2 have either been settled or withdrawn. So appeal rates have gone down quite a bit over the years. I think with values as high as they are, people are not appealing, which is good. As far as poverty and veteran exemptions, for 24, we had 12 poverty exemptions and 51 veteran exemptions. And 63 were requested and 62 were granted. So only 1 was not approved. Always continue to work with the treasurer to ensure that tax and assessing are in balance. And for 2024, we contracted with Apex Software to have the township GIS shape files converted into land sketches for every real property parcel in the township. And those land sketches were then imported into our assessing software. Now I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. As far as a goal for 25, now that those land sketches have been input, we're now going to do a study with our land values, with the sketches and what we have in the system. So we're really going to put it to use this year in 25. Also, complete and sign and deliver all statutory reports to the State Tax Commission and the Kalamazoo County Equalization Department. Worked very closely with Kalamazoo County Equalization Department for the 2025 sales ratio study conducted by the county. And we are also continuing to digitize property record card data files. So that's pretty much everything we do year after year with some accomplishments that we've done. For 2025, we're doing a 20% review right now of real property. We are in sections 11, 13, 16, 21, 22, 27, 28, 29, 34, 35, and 36. We're over halfway done, which is good. One thing that really helps us is that we have Pivot Point software, which is an assessing software that we take out in the field with us. We mark which parcels we're going to visit in our assessing software. We then shoot it to the cloud, which shoots it to the iPad. When we go out in the field, we take our pictures, make our notes. When we come back, we shoot it back in, it goes in the system. So, back in the day, it used to be a digital camera and paper, so we've come a long way, and a lot of days, in 2 hours, if we're in a neighborhood, we can get 200 properties done. So. And then I already talked that we are going to use the land sketches again to do the analyzing for the 2026 land valuation. So far for 2025, we have one appeal. It's a commercial property. And as far as veterans and poverty exemptions go, now, poverty exemptions can be granted at your March, July, or December Board of Review. So we're not fully through when poverties could be granted. So far for 2025, we've had 49 veteran exemptions and 6 poverty exemptions, and 55 are requested and 55 are granted. For vision for 2026, again, we'll do our 20% review and continue to do everything we do that we're required by the state. Hope to contract with Eagle View. They are the ones that do the aerial photography for Kalamazoo County. And I'm hoping to meet with them in September to talk about change detection or sketch check. What they would do is they just did a flyover in 25. They can then place that over an older aerial of ours to see if we're missing anything. Or we can do it with, they can look at our sketches and see if we're missing anything that way as well. So once I meet with them, we'll figure out exactly which way we're going to go. And I believe I already have that budgeted in my 25 budget, but may go into 26. And then one last thing, my department will assist with the building and planning departments regarding new developments. Any questions?
Of which there will be many.
Yeah.
Can't wait for you to attend the public hearing.
Before we go into questions, Christine, did everybody find the digital copies of the AGVs that I sent you the link? Okay. I just want to make sure that you had those in front of you if necessary. Do you want to talk about who's in your department and how you work together as a team? And
Sure. I have assistant Yale Smith. He's been with me, I think, 6 years now. He pretty much does all the residential inspections. I do the commercial industrial. He processes most of the paperwork as far as property transfer affidavits, principal residence exemptions. I process the deeds. We work very well as a team. When we do the 20% reviews, there's always 2 of us. Typically, I'm driving. Yale is in the passenger seat with the iPad, taking the pictures, waving to people, visiting, you know. Everybody's been very friendly this year, so we work well together.
Can you remind us how long you've been doing this?
23 years.
she's consummate professional. Really got to learn a lot more about assessing this year, going through some of the classes in preparation for learning more about Board of Review. So, how many, in the 20% review, approximately how many residences do you visit for that project?
I think this year we're doing about 1,600. Some years are heavier than others.
Anyone else have any questions for Christine? She's a really important partner for us when it comes to budgeting, so we're very lucky to have such an experienced professional be our assessor. So, all right, and I think the other thing I want the board to know about Christine, when we were reviewing her AGVs together, I'm like, Do you need more staff? Nope. Do you need more technology? Nope. So not only is she good at her job, but she's efficient and I would say not frugal. You're not frugal. You use good stuff, but
Well, you never know after my conference what new technology I might
that's
come
right.
back
All
with.
right, I shouldn't talk too soon, right? Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have our, how did I list them?
Building official.
Thank you. Next, we have Ted Hansen, our building official, and he's here to share the accomplishments, achievement, goals, and visions for the building department. And as a reminder, this department was formally formalized as a township department in 2024, right? Yeah. So remember, we had Southwest Michigan Building Authority, SIMBA, and that dissolved, and we brought our own building department in-house. And so I think this is the first year that the board is getting this level of data about the building department. So take it away.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's actually been a year ago this week that I started with the township, so there was pretty good goals that I think we've met in the last year. One of them is to maintain a high standard of customer service in the office and in the field, and kind of what that translates to is the contractors, whether they're industrial or residential, are really important with keeping their schedule. And the quick turnaround time that we have with permits and processing, every once in a while, we get a, hurrah from a contractor. We got one this week. And if the contractor, is pouring cement at 7 a.m., I will make an effort to get out there at 7 a.m. and inspect it so he can keep on schedule. The other thing that as Sherry had mentioned, was the technology. And the old days was a digital camera, but today we can take pictures, or the contractor can take pictures if he's got absolutely something going that's important that needs to keep on schedule. Obviously, an accomplishment was filling the full-time building official position, which, like I said, has been a year now. So was able to tabulate some good data that we'll get into, stabilize and optimize an internal workflow procedures to maximize the effectiveness of task time, which I think is taking some time to get into, but a lot of things are coming around. We've actually, with my staff, moved to kind of, I'd say 80-90% paperless office now. Activate and complete the process of electronic online payments, which has been accomplished, and that's very handy for the contractor, especially if we catch one that's working without a permit. They can come in that same day, get it pulled, get it paid for, and keep moving. If you guys look at the data for the permits issued in 2024, and you can see that compared to the 2023 numbers, which of course were before the in-house, but they're still up quite a bit percentage-wise. And the inspections that took place in 2024, those were up too, because the activity in the field is up, the permits are up, the revenue's up, and we're also paying more as an outgoing fee for the inspectors because they're doing more inspections. So it's give and take. We've got some good goals looking forward to 2025. One is maintaining both the customer service in the office and in the field, which I talked about. If you ever heard anything about people that have municipalities that have the state doing inspections for them, and they're so dissatisfied because it may take 2-3 weeks for a state inspector to get down there. And that's one thing that coming from the building field that I try to eliminate. We try to, even if they call the same day, if my schedule's open, we will get them in and get them inspected. Successfully integrate the building official in the building department, ensuring a fully oriented Oshtemo Township procedure and tools. We've been working on that for a year now, and I feel pretty comfortable with how things are. Provide comprehensive training for new administrative assistants on the building.net and other relevant systems. We did have a new hire that's both with building, parks, and
Maintenance.
maintenance. and she is working out fantastic so far, so she's an added help, which goes into evaluate current staffing capacities, which would activate Construction Board of Appeals. That's something that Sherry notified we don't have one active right now. We need one by state law. I think this is my 25th year as a building official, and I think I've only had one appeal that was requested. They're not often coming, but the state still requires us to have an active board on hand. So that's something that I'm going to put together. And
I think
Sherry-
we have a list of names of people that are Building Board of Appeals, but we need to call upon them and make sure they're still committed to serve.
Yeah, because the state requires that each one has different certifications, different abilities they bring to the board, so we'll have to look at that. The other thing is conduct a detailed review of the flat rate fee schedule and recommend updates. One thing I've noticed coming from the private industry is that we have some flat rate fees in the system, and I'll give you an example. For a re-roof, it's a flat rate fee of $225. So that could be for a $40,000 residential re-roof or a $500,000 re-roof that Walmart is undertaking. And that's just not a fair trade-off for the little guy. So we're going to take a look at that. This is another one that Christine kind of touched on, that we need to look at. Assess the need for feasibility of providing field staff with mobile access to building.net via iPads, laptops, or other alternative software. The company I came from, their software was fantastic out in the field. And I could do an inspection, take the pictures like Christine says, automatically approve, deny it, and that would send an email to the contractor, so he would get instantaneous results. The old staff way was leaving a green sticker on site that, the contractor would have to go find. So we're looking at doing that. The other reason that it's helpful if, for example, I'm out in the field and I see a re-roof going on, and now I have to call back to the office and say, hey, is there a permit on file? And if there's not, then I have to go back to that site. This way I'd have the pad right there, I could check it and then get to the contractor, because re-roofs go on all the time. Right, Anna? Okay, create an online resource guide which will provide basis to the following projects. Okay, this is another one that I'm bringing from my previous employer. A lot of the residents say, hey, I want to build a pole barn, or I want to install a pool, or I want to install a deck, put a deck on my property. I have some basement finish guides, handouts that we're going to develop that will be sitting out front with the permit applications that you can just hand to the owner. And it's very simple. It's only 2-3 pages long, but it's a synopsis of what you need to finish your basement, what type of egress window. It gives pictures of the sizes. It's very handy to hand the customer so they can leave with it and study it. So those are being developed right now. Let's see, complete the termination of the blanket permits by ensuring removal from all relevant internal systems in building.net. That more has to do with the maintenance blanket permits that we issue to apartment complexes, places like Story Point, where they pull a blanket permit, for painting or tiling or some type of finish work, but it's causing us problems with keeping track of what's actually going on in the fields. We want to take a look at eliminating that or replacing it with something. If you look at the next category, permits, so far in 2025, those are the numbers that we're at. They're all up. They're all going to exceed what we did in '24. Obviously, everybody knows how busy things are, and how busy things are going to get. I listed the inspections, how much each inspector has done. Some of them, as you can see, only work 2 days a week, and some work 3 days a week. And visions for 2026, activate and implement the new fee schedule, which we've talked about, the flat rate fee schedule, looking at that. Advance the formation of the Community Development Department, which is one of Sherry's goals, and I agree with. I've come from several municipalities that have a full-size operating Community Development Department, and it works really well. Establish a business registry, including corresponding fee schedule. That's something that, along with the fire department, we're going to get together with to know what businesses are located, where they're located, because a lot of times the occupancy changes all the time, and we don't do an inspection. So if you've got a business that's selling ladies' scarves, and it moves out, and then a business moves in that's going to manufacture fireworks, obviously there has to be some type of monitoring system so that we can make sure that it meets the current codes. Monitor and track the complaints submitted to the building department. I don't know if anybody on the board has ever gotten that in the past. I always like to keep track of the complaints that come in. They usually come to Sherry, but if we can tabulate something that we know what our weaknesses are, what our strengths are, and we can address that. And plan for acquisition of new technology in 2026. I think that was something that John talked about, new computers, but I think this is new to John that we're talking about new software and tablets in the field. So that's kind of a nutshell for a new department. If anybody has any questions.
I just want to point out to the board, for those that have been around when Simba used to be our building authority, that the numbers that are presented for 2023 and 2024 are only Oshtemo's numbers. You might remember Simba used to cover Cooper as well, but the numbers that are in this report are just Oshtemo inspections and permitting. I was hoping you'd share a little bit about who works with you in the building department and, kind of like, what's the flow like?
Well, Elvira L for short, she's the main focal point of the office. She's the one that schedules the inspections, takes in the permits, basically deals with the customers on the phone. So she does the brunt of the workforce as far as administration goes. A lot of the questions that she can't answer come to me. We've got a new hire named Karen, and she's part-time, but she's learning quick. But it's tough to learn what to me has been easy for 25 years. So just and I'll give you an example on a demo permit. We need to change that too, because we only do a final inspection for a demo of a property where you're supposed to do a utility disconnect to make sure everything's been disconnected properly, a clean hole inspection to make sure everything's been taken away, including the footings and foundation, and they're not being reburied, and then a final inspection. So to me, that's easy knowledge, but to a new employee in learning construction, but she's tasked to it very well. So I'm happy with, and like I said, I've been in a lot of communities, and Oshtemo still has the same problems that a lot of communities have, but not to the extent that I've seen. I do a lot working with code enforcement lately, condemning properties, obviously, with Jim and Sierra too. So I guess I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 rating. So it's, a lot of issues that are the same characters, just the name of the town changes, but it's not that bad. We do have issues in Oshtemo of blight and some condemned properties, but for all in all, it's a pretty good community.
That's our slogan, Oshtemo, it's not that bad.
Come check it out.
Come together.
I just want to also, Ted referred to Karen. Karen is actually a full-time employee, but part of her time is serving the building department as well. So I just want to.
Which means she's learning 3 different department tasks, which is pretty heavy load.
She's a wizard, though.
Yeah, she's good.
You'll be happy to know I got in early and did her purchase order training, so,
Yeah, thank you.
just so you know.
I'm still waiting.
So I have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
In your accomplishments, you note you maintain the highest standard of customer service. How do you know you maintain the highest standard, not just pretty good or average?
I would say because of the lack of complaints that we get,
Okay.
as what I've seen from other departments, not here, but other municipalities that I've dealt with. I've been a supervisor in Battle Creek for a while, and I used to get daily complaints about my inspectors. And it's a demeanor that you present to the public, you know, and to be honest, if I can write you a citation for something, shake your hand and walk away friends, then I'm doing my job. So I guess it's a lack of complaints is how I look at it, and providing the service to keep the contractors moving forward, because that's where they're most happy.
Sure. I was just curious what metrics you're using.
No,
determine
no,
that. Okay,
no.
great.
But that's something we're going to track.
Yeah, okay. And my other question is just more of a kind of personal curiosity. So last year, I remodeled the bathroom in my house, and yes, I had a permit, and which was a remodel of an earlier remodel that also had a permit, of course. But they discovered in last year's remodel that the light in the shower stall was not connected to a GFI or GFCI, whatever. So we installed one this time. But I was kind of curious, does anyone ever like come back and say, well, you guys approved this and you didn't do it right? Is it a complaint? Is it, you know, just, well, that happened years ago and it wasn't ours, or we didn't do it, or something? I mean, do people have any recourse if they expect to see that, you know, things were checked off, like Mr. Homeowner, like myself, who has no clue? That's why he hires a professional?
It's kind of a good question, because when I go out and do an inspection, I take photos of everything so I can document it. If there's a problem in the future, we can go back and look at it. A lot of times, the inspectors just give it a yay or nay. So you're trusting that they're there and that they're inspecting what they're supposed to be inspecting. I have not run into that. I've run into it where a homeowner did not, or the contractor did not pull a permit, and the state requires it if you're receiving $600 or more to be licensed and insured, and pull a permit where the homeowner has sought legal action against the contractor, but not against the inspector.
Okay. I was just curious, since I
Yeah.
ran into that, and we had to, you know, add a whole nother switch and make 3 switches instead of 2 and all that kind of stuff, you know. It was like, more money. And I thought, well, gosh, I'm lucky nothing happened, that I didn't get electrocuted or something.
Yeah, we see, you know, when I go to 2 conferences a year, we see that where they do a slideshow of things that are found in the field, like a light switch inside your shower, you know, that type of thing. So it does happen, but that's why the permits and the inspections are in place, hopefully to take care of that.
And Christine, that is all reported. Don't worry about it. You don't have to, you know, check up on it. I did get all permits. Thank you.
You list an 81.25% increase in plumbing. Is that a typo, or is that accurate? And if it is accurate, is it just that the process is easier so more people are doing it? It seems...
It's hard to know why. Usually, like in the springtime, you'll see an increase in mechanical permits because everybody's air conditioner is going out, you know, that type of thing. It's hard to say. Maybe a lot of people did their bathroom remodels or did their kitchen remodels. Or one thing that I have noticed in different communities is when they know you're out there looking at them, they tend to pull permits more than not. I still have roofers, caught 3 of them this week working without permits. So they, you know, if they can save $225 for a permit, they'll try it.
Thank you.
Is that on the contractor or the homeowner? If they're doing a roof without a,
Well, like I said, the state requires them, if they're receiving $600 or more, to be licensed and insured and have a permit. But we can go back to the homeowner too, because they're responsible as the property owner. But the problem is like I stopped at one gentleman today that had been re-roofed and they've done and gone. And I gave him my card and I let him know that they did not pull a permit for his house. He said, well, you know, they paid for it, it was in the contract. And I said, well, I can't, you know, there was no inspections done. I don't know if it was done correctly or not. So this is just an information that I'm stopped to give you. So, you know, if the township wants to go back to the homeowner and, you know, be forceful on it, we can do it, but I don't look at it as good PR. The job is done and gone, so. And usually, like I was telling a staff member, that Usually if it's a good contractor, he'll put his sign in your yard. And this one didn't have a sign in his yard, so.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is an important consideration. The building department, as noted, we have the West Main Villages, we have the West Gate. Always, there's so many Wests going on right now. Anyway, so the capacity level of our building department right now is pretty well at capacity. So just planting that little seed. Next, I would like to welcome Alan Miller, our ordinance enforcement officer. Alan's in your first year with the township as well, so this is his first stab at his AGVs.
First time, yes.
He's super excited.
So if I start
to be
reading
here.
real fast, just tell me to slow down. So yeah, so I haven't been here quite a year. I'm going to start off real quick, tell you that I work with one other employee. You probably know him, Rod Rout. He's part-time, works 2.5 days. I work 5 days. We just split up the workload. We communicate well. We keep in touch. Some stuff I get done on his days off. When he comes back, I just update him, and we keep track that way. So I'm going to start out with the accomplishments that I've listed. I'll go through some of the, well, I guess I'll go through them all. So I wasn't here for all of 2024. We counted them up. There was about 315 enforcement actions, ranging from blight, dangerous buildings, condemnations, noise complaints, plant overgrowth ordinances, grass, rental housing complaints, which are, we do the, as you're aware, the 2-year annual inspections of the apartment complexes that have 4 units or more. So those will generate, if we end up finding things that need to be repaired, and we write those up in our reports, those will generate open cases. Zoning ordinances, which have seemed to be a lot lately, and I find myself going to zoning for information and help a lot, and their staff, which they are helpful. And then site compliance for properties. Last, in 2024, 22 civil infraction citations were issued. When I came on board, there was quite a few cases. Rod, as you're aware, Rod was working by himself for a while, trying to keep just things moving. There were some large cases that were to the final limit where, with legal action, where the Jim's office was involved, and a couple of them were very bad blight properties and stuff like that. But a lot of them were just smaller civil infractions where we finally got to the point where citations had to be issued. We tried everything else prior to that and basically stalled out and left us with that resort. After I sort of got the gist of what was going on, I've never worked in ordinance enforcement before, and got a little more comfortable figuring out what we were doing and working with the building.net program that we utilize. I picked up, it's listed under the technology and system improvements. As I started, John over there was helpful. Kyle was extremely helpful. He was very knowledgeable about that system, but I started just realizing that things were not very efficient the way that it was being done, the tracking of our cases. They were being tracked on an Excel spreadsheet. And I kept digging into this program, trying to figure things out, and John and Kyle helped me out. Then we finally figured out that there was a way for us to keep our cases on there, track them, schedule inspections, with the inspection date coming up, having an email generated and sent to us so we could keep on track with everything and not have to be worried that we're missing something.
Alan, I think it would be helpful for the board to understand, before coming out of retirement to come to full-time at Oshtemo, what was you had a career before?
I worked in law enforcement for about 33 years. I retired from the sheriff department after 28 years. So I worked with Rod for those 28 years too. So jumping back to that, we figured out how to keep those cases under the tables section in building.net and keep those all organized. Got rid of the Excel tracking. One of the other things that was really bothering me when I first got here is that, and I kept going to Christine about this too, because I kept thinking she had phone numbers, but I'm like, man, we do everything by mail. We're sending letters out. Everything takes so long. And I finally realized that once we get into our program and you go to the name section, that the information from the assessing department does go into there, but not phone numbers, not email addresses. So now Rod and I, anybody we have contact, because some people that we contact, we have to have contact with them for months and years. And there might be other people, or they might be just an occupant of and not the property owner that we need to contact. So there's areas where you can put their information in, put their email addresses in, put their phone numbers in, and now you can call them. Dealing with a lot of the businesses, the Maple Hill Mall, the Hinmans, the AVBs, all of the maintenance people for them during the winter when I got to start contacting all those businesses about removing snow. I've got the name and the number for the person that's in charge of that in there. I can quickly just pick the phone up or shoot an email off to them, rather than sending a letter or driving over there and trying to track them down. So that has helped with our time management a lot. Another thing that took a little while to sort of get figured out in talking to everybody, the treasurer, John, I think everybody got involved in this, Dusty, trying to figure out online payments for the apartments that are required to do the semi-annual inspections, got to pay for those inspections to be done. They didn't have the ability to make those payments online. They could fill the application out, but they couldn't pay online, and they'd have to come up to the township. Well, with Kyle's help, that got done. So we're able to do that now. So now they can, just like with the permits for the building department, they can go to the ordinance site and do everything they need to do right there and get everything taken care of. And as soon as I get notification of that, I schedule the inspection and we're off. Liquor control and licensing. So when I got here, that was new to me, doing that too. Rod started explaining to me how that went, and I kept saying to him, we really got to do this every month? I said, that seems pretty excessive. And so finally, after several months of that, I picked up the phone and started calling people at the Liquor Control Commission and saying, hey, what exactly do we need to do with this? And I was informed that most entities do them quarterly. So I was able to do them quarterly. I also was able to find out that there was another form in a fillable PDF that we were basically able to fill all of the pertinent information out, get done with that inspection, and if nothing changed, we didn't have to change anything on it other than the date. So now, when I get into the system, I just go through with any that need to have additions made to them, and I email all of those at one time to the contact at the LCC. So that's gotten a lot better. Under signage enforcement, so it was explained to me in meeting with Supervisor Bell weekly that one of the big issues were all of these signs, business signs that are being stuck in the ground and in the public right-of-ways and at the intersections. And there was a lot, all the time. So I started just cleaning them up and getting them out of there. But then I'm like, you know what? I started making some phone calls and started finding out that there was LLCs that owned 4 of those companies. You know, this guy over on Sprinkle Road's got a mosquito company, a pressure washer company, a window cleaning company, and a pest control company. And he's got a sign for every one of those. You know, I'd literally go to a major intersection and there'd be signs for all those. So as soon as I started calling people and saying, hey, look, it's in the public right of way, we've got an ordinance against that, you know, they were like, yep. Some of them offered to come back and get them and pick them up and so
No,
forth.
I already threw 'em away. Don't worry about it.
That's happened, only because the bed of the pickup was full. So I've noticed that every now and then we get some popping up. The ones that are authorized are the ones you see right now for a couple of local farms. But I think, in my opinion, it's definitely decreased. I think Supervisor Bell's been told that by some people too, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it looks better. Rental apartment inspections, after meeting with Rod and looking at that ordinance and realizing how we needed to do that, one of the things that I discovered when I came on board is that had fell behind greatly, some of the complexes. And these are only apartment complexes. I counted 30, we have 34 that we do. And those are complexes that have 4 or more rental units per building. So there's a lot of rental properties in Oshtemo that don't get inspected at all. And some of them have 3 units. There's a lot of A-frames that have 3 units that don't fall under that ordinance, and we don't inspect them. I'm sure they have the same problems, but the ordinance office right now wouldn't, well, there's not an ordinance, and we don't have the staffing to pick up all those inspections of all rentals. So if that ever did change or happen, you'd probably have to add more people to get those inspections done. But out of those 34 complexes, there was one complex that had sold. The owners in Denver weren't even aware of the ordinance, and it hadn't been inspected since 2016. So very time-consuming process. A lot of people aren't aware. We go do that inspection. A lot of times, I'm bugging Ted because even though I don't know or have the knowledge that Ted has, I've got common sense, and I sort of can look at something and know that, hey, this might be a violation of the building code, because we do have to know a lot of it. And we also learn a lot in discussing this stuff with Ted, but we've had to call Ted out for stuff that has sort of sucked him into his realm as we're doing those inspections. But once we write up those reports, those, those owners and those managers, they've got to hire contractors. They've got to get them scheduled. They got to get the work done. They got to get umpteen emails from me and a bunch of phone calls saying, hey, what's the status? What's the status? Keep me updated. They can go on for a very long time. We did one of the major complexes, one of the better ones actually, before winter, and we just completed that and issued the certificate 2 weeks ago. So since I've been here, we've completed 5 complexes, a couple of them rather large, and we've issued 3 certificates. Two others are close to having those certificates issued, but still a bunch more that got to be done. So just very time consuming doing those. Not to get too far off track, but I mentioned Ted. Another thing that Ted appreciates, that's sarcasm. I come in quite regularly and say, hey, Ted, I went by this address and saw they were putting a roof on. They got a permit pulled, or they're building a carport, and I didn't see a permit posted. And some of them have led into some bags of worms that he's had to get involved in. And so I, working with him, we're learning a lot about the stuff that he does and trying to just sort of all work together to get to the same goal. And homeless encampments, definitely have noticed a decrease in that. And I was familiar with the problem with that, leading up to when I left the sheriff's department, because I left a couple of years after Rod, and we were seeing the increase in that in Oshtemo at that time. But since I've been here, I think I've told Sherry we've had a handful, three or four, with maybe 2 to 5 people, and really no big issues. So definitely a decrease in that from what that was. And with those, keeping in touch with the guys that are contracted out here, the sergeants that are assigned from the sheriff department, communicating with them with emails, anything that I think might be important to them or that they need to know, I'm shooting an email off to them. Sherry's getting it so that we're all on the same page. They have the authority to enforce ordinances in Oshtemo Township, so a lot of stuff is going to happen when Rod and I aren't working during the day, and those guys are 24/7. So definitely making them aware of any changes in ordinance or new ordinances that may be helpful to them in doing their job. There was an issue earlier in the year at the KL dump. Is that just called the KL Group? Am I correct to say that?
Yeah, Kale Avenue Group, Kale Lake Group.
Where that old dump is?
Yeah, where the Superfund site is.
There was an issue there with trespassing and in the unfenced-in area of the property that the township owns, and that was brought to Rod and I's attention. We went back there. There's obviously a lot of guys hunting. There was hunting blinds, cameras, deer decoys posted, all kinds of stuff. After several months, removed all that stuff, actually found out one of the guy's parents lived across the street, worked that all out, explained to them what was going on. Just recently purchased 10 no trespassing signs, got some old used posts out from maintenance there, supplied them because they were stacked about back. And Rod and I went back there and got 10 signs posted up throughout that property. And Sherry has shared that with that group now that we put 3 out at the road front and the rest back on the property. So hopefully that'll help with some of that.
Yeah, so just for clarification, or a little bit more on that, the public is not permitted on the Kale Avenue site, and people were using our property to gain access to the Kale Avenue site, and actually there was a large hole cut in the fencing to get onto the site, and it was probably hunters, but we got it all fixed, we got it all done. So keeping that site secure is really important, so.
And I've listed, I think I've already touched on the interdepartmental cooperation, but I think we're doing really well with that. I find myself visiting Jody, Ted, Christine today, walk by, hey, can you come here for a second? I mean, that works really well. Anna, I regularly visit her, or she's sending me something. So continuing that is definitely going to be important. You're aware that you recently contracted a couple community police officers, one residential, one business. I communicate with those guys regularly. Recently, one of the issues that came up was the homicide that was reported in Canterbury Apartments. A week prior to that happening, Rod and I had reached out to the regional management in Chicago, Illinois, for that apartment complex because it was so bad with our inspections and the complaints that we're receiving from residents as far as, mold, water leaks, maintenance in general, not getting repaired, not getting fixed, litter. Litter was a huge, huge problem there. So we actually were meeting with them. Then that incident occurred, got a hold of the sheriff department to invite along the residential CPO to go to that meeting with the regional management. So they're making a lot of changes.
Very positive stuff.
Yeah, cameras, license plate readers, changes. The residential manager just recently resigned. They're bringing in a new one, the one on site. They're just going to try to basically fix everything that we're telling them has been wrong. But we're going to continue to try to keep that relationship going with those guys. On another note, somewhat related to the community police officers, is that there's also, Sherry's day got made today because she got to watch her traffic unit with the sheriff department wheel out the speed trailer and deploy that. Because I informed her that they've done that in the past, because they have their own and they have trailer hitches and they actually do traffic enforcement. So Deputy Copeland got that today and put that thing out and is going to use that as part of his traffic enforcement.
You didn't hear the rest of the story then, did you?
Oh.
Because it failed out in the field, so Deputy Copeland had to bring it back. But he did order one from the sheriff's department, so we're gonna have one, sheriff's department is gonna.
Loan you one?
Loan us one, yeah,
Okay,
so. And
good.
we didn't even know that was a possibility until you shared some of those details, so.
You're gonna loan it to us. We've paid for it 10 times over.
Well, again, I didn't know that they.
Yeah.
So some of the complaints from residents will make it to my voicemail box, even though it's not related to code enforcement. Some people just don't know where to leave their messages about traffic problems and stuff like that. But I'll just forward them over to one of the sergeants or the captain or something like that, saying, hey, we're getting complaints about this, and he'll get them to them, and then they can figure out how to utilize that with that. So I thought that was really good that they got that worked out. Another thing that we, meeting with Jim when I first started here, is that we decided, well, I think Rod already had decided to go that way, but Oshtemo used to utilize these local citations that they would issue out to individuals here and then people could just come here and pay them. Well, what was happening is a lot of people weren't paying them. And and this was actually news to me because when I was a deputy, I used to use those sometimes. But Rod informed me that what would happen is they wouldn't pay them, and then the fire department, who had a bunch of them that didn't get paid, would bring them over to him, and he'd have to rework the whole thing and go ID the people and get all this information, just a bunch of duplicate work. So we got the fire department some state-issued citations, so that when they issue those now, they can write them right on the state citation, and it gets scheduled for an informal hearing, just like a regular citation. And that whole process is out the window. There's no more of that wasted time. So that was one thing. And we actually, those citations, you have to purchase them in bulk, like a bunch of them. But I was able to get a hold of a former colleague of Jim's that represents Comstock Township, and they sold us a couple of books. Because it's not like they write 1 million tickets or anything like that, but we got those pretty cheap for them. So they're all set with that. And
Our work
Really?
session is getting ready to be closing here shortly. Do you want to jump down to your visions?
sure. You don't want me to bring up that dog feces ordinance?
It made the news.
It's a homework.
Yes, it did.
People have spoken, and that's what they wanted, so.
So for goals, I listed a few things here. Obviously, any inefficiencies that I see, obviously I want to stay on top of those and try to figure out how those can be resolved. I've been directed to try to locate more educational opportunities, so I'm going to keep my eyes open for that, for Rod and I, for not just ordinance, but I think building, if we can learn stuff about the building code also, since how we do the apartment inspections and run into all that, I think that would be helpful if I can locate any of those. I also have listed maintain a high standard of professional, continued fostering positive relationships with township residents. And how I do that is I try to treat people the way I expect to be treated. As Sherry can contest, because I forward her any compliment in an email that I get from a resident. One gentleman thanked me for enforcing his property, because he realizes how hard that job may be sometimes, dealing with people that just don't want to do that. So I figure that's a good scenario right there when I get thanked for that. I also listed for goals, just gaining deeper insights on the budget and the operational needs, because that's all new to me at this point, just trying to figure out what we need and how to go about doing that. I came on board after they had already done that last year, so I really didn't get a lot of exposure to that process this year. That'll be different. So, vision. In meeting with Sherry and Jim, it's been discussed that it's in the works to try to come up with an ordinance or expand the housing ordinance to where the local motels also get inspected. I highly support that and agree with that, because I spent a lot of time in those in my former position and realize how bad those can get. And I also think that'll, if those are brought up and kept up, it'll change those areas. I would also like to advocate to the expansion of the rental to where not just the 4 units get inspected, but all rental properties. Whether it be a single resident that somebody's living in and renting, I think it should be held to the same standard as a multifamily residence. But again, that would be time and manpower to do something like that. I also have collaborate with the township leadership in reference to future staffing needs. So if stuff like that happens. Another thing that's been identified is the illegal dumping. As you probably see frequently, people like to dump stuff on the side of the road, tires in particular. It drives me crazy. I used to see it in my old position. The county road commission will not pick up anything. They won't clean up anything. There's nobody at the township, unless it's township property, maintenance will get it and try to dispose of it. But if it's a mattress and it's on the side of KL Avenue in front of somebody's house and it's pushed off, my only option is to enforce the cleanup of that with that property owner. And I don't like that. I hate it, as a matter of fact. So we've discussed a couple of things, but we don't have anything in particular yet. I will tell you that one thing that has come in very handy in this position is that voucher program that you have. A lot of people don't know about it, and I literally will be at people's, I stopped at a guy's house today that's got a bunch of tires all stacked up. And I did mention something to him before, so I drove by today and they were still there, so I wanted to check with him. But I recently was on the phone with somebody too in the county, or that, I don't know if it's a county one or that other program, but there's some free pickups. I've been handing that information out where they're doing free turn-ins for up to 20 tires or something like that, but a lot of people are taking advantage of that. Because that's stuff that they won't take at the transfer station where the vouchers go. There's a handful of things that they won't take. But a lot of people have been happy to hear about that voucher program, and the fact that they take yard waste twice a season. So I've even been able to tell people that they've got branches, small branches, and yard waste and stuff like that. So that's been helpful. But I would like to come up with a better way to remove tires and garbage and sofas and all of that fun stuff that people are dumping all over the place. So anyways, hopefully next year this will be shorter.
Okay.
Sorry. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Alan? I will just say the ordinance enforcement department has taken an entirely new shape and vision and effectiveness, and he's not wrong. He's pretty much maxed out, him and Rod, right now. And so before we start tackling things like all rentals get inspected and hotels get inspected, and which I think is important. I mean, I think if you want to keep the value of your community high, then that's a good investment. But again, people power. So just planting that seed for the board.
I just have one comment. I'm glad that you're meeting with the community policing officers, because this board has not received an update.
July 8th, remember? Okay.
So, well, that'll be our first one, so I'm glad to know that that collaboration is happening.
Good.
It's work in progress. Alan's been patient, I would say. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Our community partner here from Kalamazoo Discover, Jane, is here, and I'd like to offer you, I know you drove out here to share some information with the board, so before we take a break.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, I'm Jane Ghosh, President and CEO of Discover Kalamazoo. I've presented to the board before, so we are the Convention and Visitors Bureau for all of Kalamazoo County. And we are, one of our strategic imperatives is to continue to grow visitor spending. And we know that one key source of our visitor spending right now is youth sports activity. So we host a lot of youth sports tournaments. The most high-profile one is the United States Tennis Association. But our top three sports are actually ice hockey, figure skating, and wrestling, because we have the facilities for those. So in that context, in order to how do we continue to grow that, we've commissioned a study to assess what are the right sports to grow in. And the top opportunity that was identified a couple of years ago was an indoor hard court facility that can host basketball and volleyball. So then we started a multi-year project to figure out how to get that over the line. Our head of business development, Brian Persky, will come on July 8th to give you more information about that project and more details about it, and how we got to where we are. But the good news is that we have finalized the funding mechanism for that, which is an incremental hotel assessment. You'll hear more about that. And then the question we kept getting asked was, where is it going to go? And we assessed more than 30 locations. We considered more than 30 locations across Kalamazoo County. And the advice that we had from the national consultant that we were working with is to keep your options open as long as possible, and don't don't decide where it's going to go until everything else is settled, because new opportunities could always come up. Like, there could always be a site that you hadn't considered or envisioned that could come up. And so we did, continue considering sites all the way through the process. But once the funding mechanism, that hotel assessment, was finalized, it was time to finalize the site. And the county commission established an ad hoc committee to review the final sites after we'd done, a lot of narrowing down. And that committee made its recommendation to the county, and the county accepted it. And that site is in the city of Kalamazoo, basically surrounded by Oshtemo Charter Township. So it is it's the West Gate area north of the Holiday Inns between Drake and 131. And there's because of a cemetery that is there, that's actually city of Kalamazoo, as I understand it. At one point, that was Oshtemo, but it was given to the city of Kalamazoo. So we recognize then that there are implications not just for the city, but also for Oshtemo Charter Township. And so we had spoken with Jody and Sherry, along the way, to make sure that we were understanding what would be the needs of the township, as to make sure that this was a site that we can continue to have in consideration. That is the best site for this facility across the entire county. And as I say, we looked at more than 30. And Brian will tell you in a couple of weeks about why it is really the ideal site for this project. We recognize that there are a lot of implications to the township, and we will I stand here committed to partnering, and that the authority will partner with the township to make sure that this only brings positive benefits to the township. And in that regard, Discover Kalamazoo, the county of Kalamazoo will appoint one commissioner to the authority board that will manage this. The city of Kalamazoo will appoint one person to that board. All of the other seats, based on the ordinance, are nominated by Discover Kalamazoo, and then the appointments are finalized by the county. And based on conversations with Supervisor Bell, we are nominating Supervisor Bell to that authority, so we can make sure that Oshtemo has a seat at the table. So I'm happy to answer any quick questions, but please know I gave you an elevator version of what you'll get much more in-depth presentation on July 8th.
Any questions for Jane? Thanks for coming out. She specifically called and said, I'm certain you've all have read about it in the news and probably were curious. And so Jane wanted to make sure that both we get the presentation on the project, but also take time to say hello and give a quick update. So that's why she came out.
Yes, thank you for that update, and I appreciate that you acknowledge that Oshtemo gave the city that property for a cemetery that's now you're going to put a sports facility on. So I'm glad that that was noted, and there are some hard feelings about that, but we'll move forward. But I'm glad that it's been acknowledged. Thank you.
Interesting. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. And as I say, it's a really exciting project for all of the county, and I think it'll have a lot of positive economic benefits for Oshtemo Township as well. So we look forward to partnering.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, it's 6:38. So why don't we go ahead and take a break, and let's reconvene at, you want to say 6:50? Okay, we'll reconvene at 6:50 then. Are we back?
Got to make an entrance.
All right, good evening, welcome back. We will now resume our regular meeting, and first up, we have two budget amendments to present tonight, one from the legal department and one from the fire department. Since the legal department's is in the packet, why don't you go ahead and start, Jim?
Wait, consent agenda and
Oh, I just skipped right over that little
public,
puppy,
public
didn't I?
comment?
And I skipped over that too. Okay. I know. All right, let me try again. Welcome back. And we'll pick our agenda back up at item number 8. And at this time, if there's anyone wishing to make public comment, now would be the time to do so. Do we have anyone online? No, no one with us, so I'll close public comment. Next, we have item 9, the consent agenda, which consists of the meeting minutes of June 10th. Is there any questions on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
I have a motion and support. Motion by Clerk Farmer, support by Trustee Sikora to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, 6 with 1 absent. Next, we have item number 10, which is our quarterly budget amendments. And Attorney Porter, if you would please take it away.
Sure. As I think your ordinance enforcement officer indicated, we've had a number of cases where we've had to go in and have properties cleaned up. And we want to make sure that we have sufficient money in the budget. And you have a number of properties here that we have received estimates for cleanup, and we'd like to have that money available in the budget. Now, we are hopeful that through continued contact and possibly through litigation, we will be able to encourage people to do these cleanups on their own. If not, and we have to get a court order, the order will contain a provision regarding assessing the cost against the property itself. When we do that, we're not going to do that in a vacuum. We'll do that in consultation with the treasurer, an estimation of the value of the property and whether or not it could actually pay for that type of cleanup. But the budget request basically is to increase a budget amount in the amount of $100,000. One of the properties that's the most expensive on here, we are currently in the process of working on a timetable for cleanup of that property. It is not happening. I believe that's 20, 30 acre parcel, and it has a tremendous amount of debris on it. That's going to be the most costly one to handle. But we'd like to have it in the budget, realizing that we will do everything we can to assure that the township gets paid back. I think one of the last major ones we had cleaned up, we had cleanup costs of $7,000. That was assessed against the property of the winter tax bill, and that was paid through the county. The other thing we will keep in mind, and not throw good money after bad, we will be careful about the timing of the litigation and the timing of the cleanup to make sure that we can get this on the tax roll and get cleaned up. If for some reason we are late in the year and we're not able to get that on the December tax bill, we likely would back off as far as the cleanup at that time, so that we could wait until a more appropriate time to do the work and get it assessed on the property. Some of these properties are delinquent in their taxes, so we may actually be able to handle it that way. So even though we're requesting this as far as a budget amendment, we aren't simply going to go out and start the cleanup process. We're simply trying to prepare for it, and to prepare for it, we went out and had different contractors view the property and give us estimates as to what the cleanup cost was going to be. It's the first time we cleaned up the one place for like $7,000. I about fell out of my chair when we got the bill. So we're trying to be more proactive, have the money in reserve, but we're not going to spend it foolishly. And we are going to do everything to make sure it's recovered.
Are these properties occupied by residents currently?
Some of them, the best of my knowledge, none of these are currently occupied.
Okay.
They're vacant homes, people, one of the examples, the one on West Main, we've been in contact with the property owner. They're now pursuing a conservatorship because we were no longer able to actually have a good conversation with them. We're not going to take action on that until a conservator is in place and we know exactly where things are at.
Where are you dealing with and everything, yeah.
These other properties, yes, we've been in contact with all of these people numerous times. And
Have court proceedings begun with any of these properties?
a couple of them.
Okay, and so when you got the estimates, I guess I'm just trying to understand like what the mechanics of the local government cleaning up private property looks like. So we've got these vacant land, you wanted an estimate to get them, but we don't have it. How did that work? Just explain this to me real quick.
Prime example would be an unoccupied home with some outbuildings and a lot of like
Tires or something?
tires,
Yeah.
cars, junk, debris, and literally, we have, waste hauler come in and estimate what it's going to take to haul out the vehicles, how many dumpsters will it take for all of the material that needs to be put in a dumpster, and what that's going to cost. And
To
then
get that estimate though, did the property owner let us onto the property to inspect this? Like, how did that work? I just kept trying to understand.
Most of the property owners, even the ones that we've had trouble when we've approached them and say, look, we need to do an inspection. So far, I haven't had anybody refuse us.
Okay. I was just trying to understand
Yeah,
how
I
that
know if
was
they
coming.
had, the only thing we could do would be to view from the fence.
From the
line.
road or over.
A lot of times
pad or
people,
whatever.
neighbors complain though.
Sure.
Yeah,
I just wanted to get a feel for how these estimates were coming. Were they through binoculars or
No.
you were getting access to the
Helicopter.
property?
no,
Yeah,
in
drone?
fact, the last one on Boyce Drive, we reached a settlement agreement with the property owner.
Okay.
Unfortunately, not much is happening, and I'm very disappointed in that, because we gave them a very reasonable timeline to bring the property into compliance. And I think little or nothing has been done
Yeah.
at that point.
So then, I guess in the worst case scenario, we go through the court system, get a lien placed on the property,
Correct.
and then we would just come on our dime and bring it into compliance?
We'd get an enforcement order from the court would authorize us to come in and clean up and assess the property. Under Michigan law, it's placed as a lien on the real property and placed on the tax bill.
Okay. So it's getting paid.
And the good news about that is then, as Claire can attest, when the county settles with us the first of next year, then we get paid.
Yep. Makes sense. Okay, thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
And again, it is the last resort.
Do the owners know the estimated cost? This $55,000, has that been communicated to them?
I don't know that that specific property has been told what the estimate is. Many of these people are told in advance what the estimate costs are. I know the gentleman that we had to assess the $7,000 last year, he was told that it could be as high as $9,000. And in even working with his sister, we could not get him to get it cleaned up. It was really sad.
Oh, and that's kind of, they also don't have the money to clean it up, right? I mean, I think that's what you're kind of getting at, like it's such a big mess,
At $55,000?
and some real removal has to happen.
Unfortunately, just so you know,
But
that
there's no
property has, it's sat idle, it's sat in its current condition for almost 6 years. And we just finally threw in the towel. And the partial mobile homes that have been sitting there, not set on a foundation, have deteriorated to the point where they probably can't be hauled away anymore. And so they're gonna have to be demolished. If it was just a matter of moving them, it would not be that expensive. And again, one of the gentlemen that we had to spend $7,000 on, he had two metal dumpsters, recycling dumpsters on his property. And he could have loaded them and had it hauled off. He just couldn't see the difference between his treasure and what we would term as trash. And it's really hard for some people. They don't see the problem. It's a hoarding issue it's real. It's real.
Do any of these pose an immediate threat to the community or any health or safety issues? I mean, safety, you just described a significant safety one, but any risk to the community, immediate risk?
No, if there was an immediate risk to the community, we would take legal action. As long as nobody trespasses onto somebody else's property, there's no immediate danger.
Is there any other questions for Attorney Porter on this budget amendment? I am ready for a motion.
I move to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $100,000 from carryover to contracted services to provide blight cleanup
Support.
services. Yeah, thank you.
I have a
We're getting
motion.
competitive down here.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Sikora. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any public comment on the motion, or on this item, rather? No public comment, we'll close public comment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries 6 with 1 absent. Next, we have a budget amendment presentation by our fire chief, and I hope you all have it in your, you can find it in your email.
Yes.
Apologize for the long notice on this. Invoice came in over half of what we typically budget for the year in one invoice for the last.
And it's probably about 2 months' worth of work that they accomplished. So I had my freak out moment, fell out of my chair. I started making phone calls. Dusty, did we transfer money? Did we, how are we in the red? So one of the things that we did not do that I'm asking for in this was we were paid out for the wrecked Tahoe and we bought the pickup truck. But we didn't transfer money over to outfit the pickup truck from that fund. We did do a budget amendment for the fire engine that we got from Holland, and we moved that money over for outfitting, but not the pickup. So what I'm asking for is transferring from 2 different accounts. One of them is just going to be carryover of $40,000. The other one is capital outlay vehicle, which would involve the extra money to help transfer everything over to that pickup, plus a little extra that I had in there. The rest of the money left in the capital outlay vehicle fund is for paying off the new fire truck, which will be here by July 1. It's supposed to be heading out this week, heading this way. And then the moving of all equipment and stuff over to that truck is involved. So I've left enough money in capital vehicle outlay for that, but I think if we take 40 out of carryover, 40 out of capital, and put the entire 80 into vehicle operations, should get us through the rest of the year. We do have one large expense. We have a ladder truck that an outrigger was brought up on with a pin that was partially, we have pins that go in the outrigger. So when the outrigger, if something were to fail, it comes down and the pin locks it in. Well, the outrigger pin was partially out and it was retracted and it bent some things. So estimated $20,000 to $30,000 problem there. So that's why I'm asking for 80,000 right now, and thinking that that should get us through the end of the year. And also think that's getting us a little closer to figuring out what we need to do mechanical-wise, in-house mechanics, things like that. So I'm looking for approval for a budget amendment tonight.
Was the PIN a training issue? What, can you explain better
Yep,
how
so
this occurred?
we don't know the timeline of when it happened, and that's the biggest problem. But we teach everybody, our controls for the outriggers are at the back of the truck. So we teach everybody to put the pin in from the back facing forward. So when you're there, you can look down the side of the truck and you can see that the pins are in. This pin was inserted the other way. Could be somebody new, don't know if they even know it happened, but it did not, so if it's through the entire outrigger, when it comes up, it usually catches, and you can see every one of them have a little mark because somebody's made a mistake here or there. This actually bent everything because the pin was half in. So when we took it out to the mechanic shop, we recreated the problem, we brought it up, we pinched the pin in, and then we dropped it, and the pin fell out onto the ground. So we're wondering if, and I don't have anybody admitting it, and I can't even say it's our department, it could have been the shop that this happened to, I have no idea when. But that somebody lifted an outrigger, it didn't go all the way up, so they put it back down, and the pin fell out, they went over, picked the pin up, put it in its holder, lifted everything up. Now, unless you walk around the front of the truck with that down and you look at the outrigger from the front, you cannot tell that there was a problem.
But wouldn't that be part of the safety check every day?
We do once a month, or once a week, lift up of the apparatus and everything. So, yeah, when you put the outrigger down, you grab the pin, you slide it in, but without going around like this and looking to see if something's bent, you never would have seen it. So I kind of understand how that could have been missed. We have annual ladder certification that's done, where we have a professional come in and go through the entire, everything on the ladder truck, MagnaFlux, all that stuff, and he's the one that found it, and it was just, he didn't even find it right away. He was like, wait a minute, did you see this is bent? Like I said, you wouldn't have noticed it if you didn't walk around and actually look at it.
So it would not be part of the visual safety everyday check?
No. Yeah, I can guarantee it is now. Everybody's looking at him now.
Well said.
Any other questions for the chief? Okay. There's no questions. Do we want to have any conversation about this? Or if not, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendment in the amount of $80,000, transferring the funds from the fire fund carryover and the capital outlay vehicle to the vehicle operations account to restore funding for essential vehicle maintenance and operational readiness.
Second.
A motion by trustee Sikora and a second by trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? Is there any public comment on the motion? No public comment on the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item 11, consideration of public educational and governmental PEG access letter to Secretary Dortch. Treasurer Bushka, do you want to, this was your,
I'll get it started off, but if there's any complex questions, Attorney Porter will jump in. So Public Media Network, who I'm on the board with, is losing significant revenue, which also means that we are from PEG fees from cable companies. The cable subscribers are dropping off and turning more to items like Netflix, Hulu, Disney, stuff like that that are coming through Wi-Fi. And so there's arguments in courts right now in regards to, can these be added, or are the cable fees going to be dropped? But a long story short, it was presented at one of our public media network meetings that there is a letter available if townships would like to get on board with this as well and show the support not only for the loss of public media's revenue, but also of our revenue. Their PEG pass-through is 40%, ours is 60%, so we are also losing money. And so the feeling is with other items that we've had in the past, if municipalities kind of get on board and all submit letters that like, hey, this is not the right thing to do, then we might be able to have some pull similar to what MMTA could do, and which they are actually, MMTA is also doing. And so that is what this is about. It was not structured quite like this. I did bring this back to legal here for Attorney Porter and Sierra to review and rewrite and kind of tailor more to our municipality than a generic letter. So that's what I have, and then if you have more specific questions, Attorney Porter can assist if I cannot.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that a lot of changes in Lansing have impacted local townships and the PEG fees that are the public educational and government fees that we pay through cable. A lot of this came about as a result of changes in the state law. We always had a requirement that you had to have a franchise to be in the public right-of-way through the local community, whether it was telephone, whatever it was. Cable came along federally, got legislation in place to set their fees, what they would be, and they were fairly favorable to us at the time. And then the state came along and they passed the Michigan Telecommunications Act and they passed the Metro Act, which then basically said that anybody putting like fiber optic in the street, you can't charge a franchise fee for. So you get a stipend basically based on the front footage of the lines that are in your community as part of the payment they make to the state of Michigan, and then they pay us a portion back. Well, there is disparity in what these different companies are paying, and that's part of the fight that's going on in DC is the cable companies are saying, look, if we're old-fashioned cable, we cannot compete because a lot of communities now don't charge the same amount to local telecom providers or metro providers, and therefore there's probably an equal protection argument, a fairness argument. Unfortunately, it will, as Claire indicated, hurt the township, and it would have an impact on the service that we get from
Public Media Network.
Public Media Network. Part of the problem is we can't supplement that with money we're getting for Metro, because Metro says, the act specifically says you will use that money on improvements within the public right-of-way. So we can't use it for telecommunications for local broadcasting, so.
Just any questions about the purpose of sending this letter? I think I have one change that I just saw is in your CC lines at the bottom. I think you mean Office of Congressman Huizenga.
Oh, okay, yep.
I'm just seeing if he spelled Huizenga correctly.
I really doubt it.
Sierra will fix it.
Yes.
Does this need do we need a formal motion?
You don't have to have a formal motion. If there's just consensus among the board to send it, we'll send it.
Send it.
Send it.
Yeah, all right, consensus is reached. Send it. Okay. Next, we have item 12, and this is a consideration item, the second reading of ordinance number 678, public sanitary sewer hardship financing or deferment hardship text amendments. And at first reading, you had a presentation about those text changes, and so we are now here at second reading.
I just need clarification, because on the memo, it says ordinance number 233, but on the agenda, it's ordinance number 678.
The original ordinance, I'd have to check the number, that seems low, but you're amending a pre-existing ordinance, so
It will become 678?
I don't know where the 233 came from.
Okay.
This will be 678, and it's amendment 2, and I question that that number is accurate. Unfortunately, with WordPerfect, we beg, borrow, and steal from other,
Because, yeah.
I anticipate
Yeah.
that is not the correct ordinance number, so.
Okay.
Anna, do you happen to have that information by any chance? Okay. I was just going to go back and look at,
Last meeting.
uh-huh.
It's section 233.004, ordinance number 678. That's how it's worded in here.
Section 2,
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry, on the next page, the policy,
it's actually ordinance number 620.
yes, 620.
233 is the compiled number.
okay.
Ordinance 636 in 2021.
Which is now codified as Part 233 in your compiled ordinances. So 636 is probably what you're amending.
Well, the original ordinance number for the sanitary sewer hardship financing is ordinance 620.
Oh, originally, yeah, and then the
Adopted
most recent.
April 28th, and you should always stick with the original ordinance number and the ordinance numbers that amended thereafter.
Okay.
Compiled sections, people refer to compiled sections, but that's just for convenience sake, that's not an ordinance number. So it should have said, rather than the 233, it should have said ordinance 620 amended by ordinance 678.
Correct.
So your motion should be to accept for second reading and adopt the text amendments to,
Ordinance 678.
thank you, public sanitary sewer hardship financing or deferment hardship.
Second.
I have a motion, and a motion by trustee Sikora and a second by trustee Ford. Is there any discussion on the motion? And do we have any public comment on this item 12? None online, none here with us. I believe, is this a resolution? No. Got to get back on my packet, sorry. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries 6 with 1 absent. Next, we have item 13, consideration of brownfield tax increment finance policy amendment.
They're on their way.
Yep, and so
Trustee was trying to hog them all.
I was trying to.
two more changes from what went out in the packet, and this is a new animal for us, and so we write one thing and it sounds good, and then we try to apply it in all situations and realize that this new policy needs work. And so we have 2 additional amendments. The first one that was in the memo and in the packet, we were trying to apply a community benefits agreement to all brownfield TIFs, TIF being tax increment finance, so all brownfield TIF plans. And if it's a true brownfield project, like the Maple Hill Subaru redevelopment of West Side Medical, that they are abating lead and asbestos in the building, that developer can only recover those actual costs that they incur abating the property. So there's no opportunity for the township to tag on like, oh, and we want to repair the non-motorized path in front. So there's not a mechanism in the law for that. Now, there's different language in the law for housing projects, and that's where the community benefit agreement could come in. But having had some extensive conversations with Michigan Growth Advisors, that is pretty much the statewide expert in this, we concluded that maybe we should be calling it a community reimbursement agreement, and then identifying, right when they're preparing their brownfield plan, what would the township do if we had some years that we were capturing some of the tax increment? And it'll be project by project, because it has to benefit the project. And so we're suggesting changing from community benefits agreement to community reimbursement agreement. We have several of these that are going to be on the agenda next month, and so for a couple of them, I was waiting for the fee, and they said, well, your policy doesn't mention the fee, so we're sorry, we didn't get it to you beforehand. So I heard that yesterday, and so I'm suggesting, like, the first change on what Jim handed out for me is under application, just referencing the fee, because they are reading the policy, and they didn't see anything in there about the fee, so if they had seen that, they would have looked for our fee schedule or sent me a message. And then another thing that came up is, so the number of years you can qualify for reimbursement of tax increments and the incentives we talked about in great detail over a couple meetings. We're silent on the fact that the Kalamazoo County Brownfield Authority tacks on 5 years to any agreement for funding of the local brownfield, take it, revolving fund. So every TIF project, they do that, whether it's housing or true brownfield. So I just wanted to add in here that if the developer qualifies for 15 years, because they have provided these and met our incentive criteria, that the county's 5 years is not part of that. That can be in addition to. And so that was something that came up. But like I said, they're reading it closely, and they want to follow it and apply it to their projects. And so that's a change that we are recommending.
I think that was always our intent, we just.
Yeah, it wasn't
didn't
clear.
realize it in the.
And I thought, well, we'll all understand that, but in 7 years, who's going to be reviewing these, or 10, or however many years, if this is even a tool available in the future? Okay, and so then D is the last change, which I mentioned, changing it from community benefits to community reimbursement. And it would just be for housing projects, like I said, for like a true brownfield project, that's not even available. So to distinguish that there. And that we identify what we would do, and it would be construction and maintenance activities that benefit the development, because that's from the act, such as, but not limited to, just planting the seed for people who are looking at this, maybe non-motorized, maybe a street extension, street lights for safety, infrastructure easements that we might want to acquire for future extension. So not limited to those, but that's to give the developer an idea. And they need to know early in the process, because they factor that into their spreadsheet. They have to put the number of years that we want to be reimbursed and starting what year. So like for West Ridge, if we suggest that we'll build non-motorized for where that development will stop, to take it east to where it stops in front of 9th Street now to fill that gap, and then maybe also take it to 7th Street, but we're not going to construct that till 2027, for example. That's the year we would start getting reimbursement. So that'll be in the brownfield plan, that this is what the township plans to do that benefits this development and the community. And if we don't build it, then we don't get reimbursements. So if something happens and we don't build a facility, or someone else comes along and develops and builds the segment we thought we would be building, then we'll never be submitting for reimbursement, and likely the brownfield plan will just end sooner. So those are the changes we're asking for this policy, and hope to not bring this to you again anytime soon.
And I have to compliment Jody for staying in touch and keeping her ear to the ground in talking with county, talking to other representatives proposing these projects. I honestly think this will help us get more buy-in than the way we originally proposed it.
Does the handout replace the memo that's in the back?
Not the memo, but the attachments.
The attachment, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see there's this, what she handed you today, under application, that's a new, I think that's a new one. And then
Yes.
on the back page, under item B, that is new on the memo. And then I was just looking at item D.
I don't think there was any change
I
to
don't think
D.
there was
It was
There
just the
wasn't.
5 years and the application fee.
So, I'm gonna just say something general, and it's just because it is, it irks me. It irks me beyond belief to spend time reading something and come to the meeting and there's a last minute change. It wasn't on the website, so the community doesn't know about it. And these may be small changes, but it really gives the appearance just of not being completely transparent. I don't like at the last minute, even though these are changes, I really don't like at the last minute having something that wasn't on the public page. And as I check, it's still not. These changes are small, but they're not the ones that are posted. And it just, it goes against transparency to me. I don't like it. I know my time's fairly limited. I spend a lot of time, trying to read and trying to understand. And it irks me. It just irks me, and I wanted to express my irkness, for lack of other term. I don't know how to say that. But it irritates me, and it does not give the appearance of transparency I think we should give.
Well, I appreciate that. I will say that the planning director kept in contact with me about all the different movement that was happening with this. And so it was decided that it was better to bring a more complete document than what was in the packet on Friday. And the problem, or why this is related, is because we have the potential for 3 brownfield plans coming to us in July. And so if we don't get to an agreement about what all we need to have in our policy, that mucks up their whole process.
I don't care. I'm sorry to say. We need to do things the right way. And, I'm not going to rush and I'm not going to hurry because these are coming. They can wait. If we can't get this done right and publish it out, then they wait. I don't think that is ever a good idea. Because these are coming, we have to rush. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Do things right, make it transparent, allow people the opportunity to see it, allow us the time to think about it, and then put it out. If those plans have to wait a week or 2 weeks, so damn well make them wait. 2 weeks is not going to take that much time.
I don't really care about their timeline either, but it's more like 2 months because we're just one of 3 boards they need to be in front of.
But that's, I don't think we're going to have somebody walk away from a project because of that delay.
I think we should adopt a policy then about changes. I wasn't aware that this needed to get on the website. I would have taken those measures right away.
I don't think it's
Well,
I don't think it's
yeah.
frequent that documents come to us while we're on the dais. I mean, I can't, I can't think of another example off the top of my head, but I know it's happened where items have been passed out while we were on the dais that were going to be reviewed and discussed. I appreciate your comments, Michael, and I don't think this is our practice, our normal practice, but there were a lot of factors at consideration, and we can, I guess, I don't even know if there is a policy about how we take up specific items on the agenda.
Well, the changes tonight are just informational, so I would prefer you just go forward with the other version and I'll bring it back in the future. Just noting an application fee and that the county's 5 years are not part of your time limit. Those are
I don't
just
have a problem
informational.
with what you've presented. I mean, so I think we could definitely put it to a vote to see where it would go tonight.
Well, I think I've been on record as wanting more time to read things and making sure things are posted and we have enough time to review everything, so I don't think I need to reiterate all of that. I appreciate Trustee Chapman's comments. I also think that in this case, I don't have a problem with moving this one forward because it was well explained here, and I don't think it was actually, seems like it was things that people brought forward to us as things that were missed, rather than, we're changing the rules midstream or something. So I wouldn't have any problem in this case, but I don't think we should make it a regular practice either. And I think it's a good reminder that we need to have something in place to make sure everybody, including the public, has access to things in a timely manner.
And I do want to just emphasize, I agree with you. The changes are minor, but it's not what was on the website. And that's just, these are minor, I accept that, but they need to be updated and available to the public.
Is there any further conversation? First, I think, are there any questions for the planning director regarding the proposed amendments to this policy?
I don't have a question. I appreciate that we have worked to make something, not to make good the enemy of perfect or whatever that phrase is, that we keep trying to accomplish something and we find out what's working, what isn't working, and we keep making it better. And I like that, rather than just waiting till the end when we think we have something perfect and meanwhile it's too late and everything's gone by the side. So I really appreciate you staying on top of that and talking with people and getting the feedback and working to get this updated so that we can make this work and get it implemented in our community.
Any other comments? Are we ready? Is anyone ready to make a motion?
So let me clarify, is this one a resolution? Because there's a certificate after it.
Let me scroll to
I
the
don't
end.
believe so.
Yeah. it
Yeah.
says-
Is there?
Yeah, it
Oh,
is.
yep,
Thank you.
yes, sorry.
I'll make a motion to adopt the text changes to ordinance 679.
Second.
No, you're on the wrong agenda item.
Rescinded.
But, no, keep that. It will save us a lot of time tonight.
For the next one, yeah.
Make a motion to change the.
That was the next
Oh,
one.
I put ordinance 13 next as the brownfield policy, so, ordinance 679. Anyway, to adopt the text changes to the brownfield policy.
I will still second.
A motion by Clerk Farmer, a second by Trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? This is a resolution. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Trustee Chapman?
No.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Cole is absent. I vote yes. Treasurer Bushka?
Yes.
And Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 5-1 with Cole absent.
Okay. Next, we have item 14, consideration of first reading regarding ordinance number 679, zoning text amendments regarding ADU and accessory dwellings.
You've heard the news, there's a housing issue, but I would say several times a month, if not weekly, Leanna and Colton field phone calls from individuals that want to establish an accessory dwelling unit on their property, and 9 times out of 10, it's for someone who has an older parent that they want to bring closer to them. And right now, they can't do it, but you can do it in a lot of our neighboring communities, so it's about time that we crafted some language. And so as we were looking at other communities and their vetted ordinance language that they put into place after study and implementation, and came up with an ordinance that the planning commission worked through. They had some really good discussions over several drafts before they finalized it and set the public hearing. So essentially, an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, would be allowed by right in the residential and village commercial districts. And village commercial, because we allow single-family homes in that district, so it makes sense to allow an ADU there, not overlook that part of the community. As long as there's a one or two family home on the property, they can have an ADU. The ADU would be limited to 3 individuals that meet the definition of family in the zoning ordinance. The gross floor area would be 350 to a max of 900 square feet, provided your ADU is not larger than your home on the property. So if your home's 800, then your ADU couldn't exceed that. The language says that the ADU must be aesthetically compatible, and up until the last minute, it said architecturally compatible. And this is another thing, learn as you start applying. We have someone with a house from the 1800s on Van Cal. Well, you're not going to build an ADU that's architecturally compatible with that. I mean, that would probably be cost prohibitive for this woman who wants to bring her mother closer to home. So now we realize it's really just more important that it's aesthetically compatible with the neighborhood than matching the architecture of the home. The planning commission had some discussion on this, and they've agreed to come back and revisit it in the future, but right now, the rental terms would be no less than 180 days a year, so that these don't become used as short-term rentals, but they said they would come back and consider that, revisiting that in the future after we have a few ADUs under our belt and operating in the community. Not operating, established in the community. So there's language that you can put on an addition to your house or modify part of your house to create like a mother-in-law suite. And then there's different requirements for detached ADUs, because an ADU maybe in your backyard is a little different for neighbors than an ADU you make in your attached garage or in your home. So the planning commission can waive all these, but it says like it has to be in compliance with the setback requirements. And it must be closer to your home than the home, your neighbor's home. It's your ADU. But again, there might be topographical reasons that the planning commission wants to waive that, so that's something the planning commission can waive. The height of a standalone ADU cannot exceed 15 feet, and in no circumstances be taller than the height of the principal dwelling. And the reason that's something that the planning commission can waive, because maybe someone's building the ADU inside their pole barn that's already 28 feet tall. So it'd already be in a building that's taller than 15. So in instances like that, the planning commission could waive the height limit, but you wouldn't want a standalone shed that's 30 feet tall in someone's backyard. That's just an ADU. Unless it's a fantastic design and the planning commission wants to waive that requirement, of course. And then also tagged on to the ADU amendments is reinstating 57-100D, which has the sliding scale for the larger your property is, the larger your accessory building combined square footage can be. We took that out earlier in the year, and there was some public outcry, and so we agreed that we would just tack it back on to the next round of amendments that we pursued. This really affects properties larger than 5 acres. And then we're clarifying, again, through application, the language that talks about who may seal plans that are submitted for site plan review or as-built drawings for a project. So we're just clarifying some of that language. Planning Commission held a public hearing on these amendments in May and does recommend that this ordinance, being 679, be adopted by the Township Board.
Well, I, for one, am very excited that we are venturing down this road. I think this is, I mean, in a way, it almost feels like rolling back the clock a little bit, where as America, we moved to, the nuclear family lived in its own home, and now people are moving back with their parents or children or whatever, multiple generations are living in the same house. So I do think this is gonna help. I think it will help give particularly some options to seniors particularly. Can't remember the conversation, but seniors sometimes don't move out of the home they have because of the uncapping of the taxes, right? And so if they buy another property, they can't pay the taxes in that property because of the uncapping stuff. So, I don't know. Anyway, I think this is great. I was wondering if there was, Michael, if you had any comments from the planning commission perspective?
All I can say is I was unable to be at the last one that adopted this. I did raise several concerns prior to that, but I would be willing to hear everybody else before I raise my concerns.
Okay.
If anybody else had anything.
I appreciate you moving forward with this. I have heard several people from neighboring communities who wondered, do you have one? What's your say? And, that we don't have that. So I really appreciate the time and effort to putting this together and moving forward on another possible housing option for people. I think my only kind of side comment is we probably shouldn't say mother-in-law dwelling or whatever, the apartment, just a general.
Where is that exactly?
No, we didn't say it. You said it on your
Oh.
presentation. I
I was trying to put it in terms
I
everybody
know,
would
but
grasp.
that's historically how it's always been referred to.
Yeah.
I'm just commenting, we probably shouldn't use that.
Jack? Well, Michael, do you want to share your concerns? Because I think that if,
Yeah, I mean, and it's just a small one, and well, there's a couple, but this is just a small. I think the intent, I'm not sure that I like the wording of the intent, even though this is minor, because the intent is, there's two potential intents, and this one's based primarily on finances. Source of income, long-term tenant. I think the intent, at least that I would imagine, is to in part address the housing crisis, the housing issue. So I just would like to turn that away from some of the financial wording. And again, it's just small, but I think that after we've received so many informative meetings and so many informative presentations about the crisis, I think that our focus shouldn't be necessarily on income, but to address the housing crisis and to provide more opportunities for individuals that might not have otherwise have opportunity. But if we are going to keep the source of, a supplemental source of income, then down, and correct me if I'm wrong, but under B, restrictions, no accessory building shall be used for any business or home occupation unless approval granted by the planning commission pursuant to that. That just, I didn't know if that was congruent, because it did seem to be kind of, if you're renting it and our primary focus is that income, that's a business, and this seems to say that we should not, that we can't use it as a business. So
Well, that's if
just-
someone doesn't run their hair cutting business or something
But
out of it.
if I rent out my property, and we just talked earlier about the possibility of inspections, it's a business. You're making money off that, and, it's usually done through a LLC or something, but I'm just pointing out how it was a little discongruent with what I thought our initial purpose was with it. So I didn't know if that, and I'll lean to you, Attorney Porter. Page 31 is where I have the highlight. Page 31 of our packet,
Unfortunately, I was
B5.
on page 24, so. What section of the?
I am at B, so I'm under the amends section 57.1. let's see if I can get you there better. Under B, restrictions.
That's,
There
oh,
are
that's
numbers.
separate. That is not
This pages are
ADUs.
numbered different.
Pages are numbered, I don't know why.
31 is where mine was.
57-100 is regarding accessory buildings. It's completely unrelated to the ADUs. We were just,
Yeah, that's why I'm so confused, 'cause I don't
The
see anything in.
intent statement he's referring to,
Oh.
I think
I
I
found
see it
that.
on page 24.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's,
what you're quoting is just what we had on the planning commission agenda, a young couple running their side hustle out of their accessory buildings. That's completely separate than accessory dwelling units. It just happens to be coming forward together out of convenience and saving on publication.
okay.
yeah, no, this section has nothing to do with ADUs.
Okay, thank you. Just making sure that it would not, okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then the intent was just a question to the board. Is it more of an intent for finances, or is it an intent for addressing the housing crisis?
Well, there's some cash-strapped seniors that if they could have a tenant, maybe their social security check would go a little longer. I mean, that's the intent behind that language, a source of income for
Well,
homeowners.
I mean, I think the statement, it is recognized that ADUs provide an opportunity for affordable housing for young and old households, as well as a way for family members to reside nearby with independence.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we had a very long conversation about the short-term rentals. And I just wanted to make sure that, because a short-term rental is, like I said, we had a very long conversation with that on several of the meetings that we had. And so the question was, the township does not prohibit short-term rentals. But here we specifically say 180 days. And so I'm just not sure why we talked it out, but I just wanted to bring that up, whether it was relevant here, the prohibition against short-term rental on that. Because we don't otherwise have prohibitions on short-term rental either.
No, I think the planning commission's thinking on that was, and I felt that it was approvable in the form that was submitted, in that you're not going to have an equal protection claim, because what you're really doing is you're adding an additional rental unit to an existing property, whereas a short-term rental ban would basically ban any properties in the township or areas of the township from being used as short-term rentals. So from an equal protection standpoint, I think this is defendable, because you're going to add into an existing neighborhood a second dwelling within what was originally designed for a single-family home.
And Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, because we're silent about short-term rentals, doesn't mean they're legally established. So if the township board wanted to disallow short-term rentals, nobody could claim that they had prior approval. I mean, that's what I heard in other communities.
I've heard that. I have not fully vetted that legally, but to my knowledge, I don't think somebody has necessarily a vested right in that short-term concept, even though we haven't had a problem because we don't have lakes or something of significant attraction that would promote those types of rentals, even though they may be out there.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Any other board comments on? Make sure I'm in the right place on my packet here. Regarding item 14 for the first reading, any other discussion? Okay. There's no other discussion. Are we ready for a motion?
I'll move we accept for first reading and set for second reading and adoption ordinance 679.
Support.
Hope that was the right number.
It was. That was the one that I said before.
Yeah, maybe you wanted to make those.
I have a motion by trustee Sikora, support by trustee Chapman. Any discussion on the motion?
I would only add that it's set for second reading for July 8th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment? No public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6 with 1 absent.
Wait, I'm sorry, who seconded that one?
Michael.
I did.
Michael.
Oh, you did, okay, thank you.
Next, we have consideration of first reading regarding ordinance number 680, zoning text amendments regarding parking.
Yes, this one, also had several meetings and good discussions at the planning commission level. Initially, it started with the planning department taking a comprehensive review of our article that addresses off-street parking requirements. And a lot of communities are getting away from minimums and going to maximums, which is the direction we are suggesting to go. This lets us find opportunities to reduce the amount of paving, especially with new projects, and really retrofitting existing sites like you're even seeing at Meyer where there's a Valvoline, is it a Valvoline? And a Jiffy Lube and a Big B now, because they don't need all that parking that the ordinance thought everybody was gonna drive in one car to go to the grocery store back in the day. So this is happening across the country. And in our experience in reviewing plans and interacting with developers and site designers regularly, we've come up with this requirement, but just for non-residential uses. And we also, Leanna and Colton spent a lot of time researching for particular use, like a grocery store or a car wash or something. Terrible examples, but what kind of parking do they really need? It should be based on gross floor area or net floor area. Now, if a developer thinks they need more and they can demonstrate, I've been a part of that before where it was a Dollar General store, not here in Oshtemo, but the ordinance required way more spaces than they could prove. They just gave us their 18 top performing stores and based on square footage, how many parking spaces they need. So when a developer can justify if they need more than our maximum, then the planning commission or reviewing body, if it happens to be in front of the zoning board of appeals, can accept what they provide if they find it appropriate. And we're also looking to reduce the width of drive aisles, the mandate on them. Like I said, the flexibility to deviate from new maximums, quantity and size will be retained. We already do have a cap on if the ordinance requires, for example, 100 parking spots. Right now, if Walmart wanted to go to 110, the ordinance allows you to go 10% over what's required. And so that type of flexibility is retained, just different language. And we put some criteria in place so that the reviewing body can thoroughly evaluate any proposal to deviate from the requirements. It wouldn't be a variance, so they wouldn't be subject to those strict standards. We had discussed about just leaving it up to the business owner, and that's fine for the big corporate companies, well-established companies that they know what they need, but you will get that guy on Sprinkle Road who owns 18 businesses and really doesn't care if there's adequate parking. I mean, just look what's happening at a particular business at KL and Drake right now, staying open with 4 spaces that aren't even safe to access. So they don't always care about providing adequate parking as long as people are getting through the door. So we still think we should have some requirement and not leave it entirely up to the site designer and business owner to say how many parking spaces they need, unless they can justify it, of course. And then we had to look at other sections to make sure if we make these changes in drive aisle width and parking requirements that we don't have a contradiction. And there was just one other or ordinance section to change, and that's 48100D, which talks about the width of drive aisles in multifamily developments. We purposely decided not to touch agritourism, like that's such a unique use and our requirements about parking and drive aisles and defining parking spaces out on a gravel parking lot for U-Pick. We decided that was really thoughtfully done in the past, and we're not going to adjust those requirements with this update. So it's mainly just parking. And as part of being certified as a redevelopment-ready community, they want you to have taken a hard look at your parking or commit to doing it, and so we're a little ahead of the ball on that. Ahead of the curve, not of the ball. I mean, depending on if the ball's chasing you.
If you're Indiana Jones, you gotta be
Right.
ahead of the ball.
Well, like, yeah, it's got a fuse in it. Oh, jeez, it's getting late.
I know. All right. Does anyone have any questions for the planning director on this item? I think this is, again, like a good, like less pavement, feels like a good thing to me, and, but still being able to be flexible with with property owners as far as if they can justify they need more spaces or whatever. I think that's cool, but. Dusty, Michael?
No, just as if the property owner can justify having more, I do think it's important that we have have those minimums in there too, because I
Yeah.
can see, okay, well, I only need 4 because everybody's going to park on the street and take up all the, the parking spaces there. So I'm glad that we have a minimum and of course that we have the flexibility. Thank you. Good job.
There are no questions for,
Oh, sorry, I do actually just have one more. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was addressed, I'm just looking here. The houses of worship part, I know we had talked about that. And
We retained it. Let me double check that. We did require some changes, and that, so we have some devoted citizens that monitor our packets, and they came out and said that why they didn't agree with the changes to house of worship, and so we put them back to what they were. 1 per 3 seats or 6 feet of pew is how it reads now, and we're retaining that. I don't know what your packet page is, I'm sorry.
it's 42.
Oh, okay, but then we're just adding whichever is greater, plus 1 per employee, plus amount required for accessory uses, because we're starting to see a lot of the houses of worship have accessory uses. And really, we need to get away from house of worship and call it place of worship, but that's a future project.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify because I was having some trouble
Yeah.
here with my note.
Yeah, we got good community input on this, just from people following the agendas.
Well, I'm ready if you all are ready.
I move we accept for first reading and set for second reading and an adoption ordinance 680. Second reading is July 8th.
Second.
Motion by trustee Sikora and a second by trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? Any public comment? No public comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 6 with 1 absent. Next, item 16, consideration of first reading regarding ordinance number 681, zoning text amendments regarding transportation and mobility ordinance and access management.
And this is the easiest one. So when we adopted the transportation and mobility ordinance, it superseded all our zoning ordinance language regarding private streets, driveway spacing, driveway design requirements that are presently in the zoning ordinance and really should be eliminated because they're addressed in the transportation and mobility ordinance now. So we identified all the areas where we could find the language in the zoning ordinance should either be amended to reference the transportation and mobility ordinance or just deleted in its entirety. So that's what these changes are. Hearing was held on May 22nd, and the Planning Commission recommends approval.
Thanks. Any questions for planning director? You guys are doing a lot of work over there in your office.
Yeah.
If there's no questions for the planning director, ready for a motion?
All right, I'll move that we accept for first reading and set for second reading and adoption ordinance 681 on second reading July 8th.
Second.
A motion by trustee Sikora, a second by trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? Any public? No public online, no public with us, no public comment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. That's a lot of detailed work. Next, we have item 17, a resolution to enter into closed session regarding lease and/or sale or transfer of real property.
I make a motion to adopt a resolution to enter closed session at 8:03 PM to discuss the sale of real property.
Second.
Motion by Clerk Farmer and a second by trustee Ford. All in favor?
It's roll
say-
call.
Roll call, thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll, please? Thank you.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Cole is absent. Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Trustee Chapman?
Yes.
Treasurer Bushka?
Yes.
I vote yes. Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 6-0 with full absent. We are in closed session.
All right. Motion by Clerk Farmer and support by Treasurer Bushka. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 6 with 1 absent. And next?
I move to authorize the supervisor to proceed as discussed in closed session.
Support.
I have a motion by Trustee Ford and a motion, or in support by Trustee Chapman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 with 1
Wait,
absent.
what?
What?
There should be nothing to,
Well, it's okay, that's okay. That's-
Yeah,
okay, okay.
I understand what your concern is, just,
Yeah.
it's authorized.
Okay, last on our agenda is public comment. We don't have anyone here with us. Do feel free to come and join sometime. We would love to see you. Do we have anyone online? No, and with that, I will close public comment, and this meeting is adjourned.
Whoa, hang on,
Wait,
hang on.
Our comment.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Got a little excited there.
Oh, you know what? You want to know why? Is because I have a,
Old agenda?
One that's not on the website.
no, I just printed it just before this meeting, but I don't have my packet open. Oh, okay.
You hadn't heard from me yet, you should have known that.
I know. Okay. We'll start with Trustee Ford.
I have no comments tonight, thank you.
Figures.
Trustee Chapman.
Yes, a couple. The Environmental Committee met. It was a nice meeting where we discussed the future of household hazardous waste and the community survey results. So there's discussion about renovations versus creating a new building versus a new site, which we all agree is necessary, but there are still financial issues. We also discussed the possibility of hard-to-recycle materials such as mattresses that were it was really quite relevant because there is no place to dispose of them. They get put in people's yards and places, so it was a great conversation. It's not a capability we have yet, but it is something we're looking into. Other communities have done that and have been quite successful. The next thing is I want to personally thank this group for passing a resolution in support of LGBTQ Pride Month. I'm sorry that I was not able to be here to be involved with that. I think it's important to everybody to feel welcome in the community that they live in, and while it does not change much, it shows to our community that we are supportive of everybody. We are an inclusive community, and I thank each of you for doing that. Lastly, I need to apologize to the community and to this board. I have missed a couple meetings in the adjustment to my new job. That's something that has bothered me, but it's something that I believe is corrected now. My employer now has my schedule, and I've set those off for the next 2 years. They probably won't look at them for that, but I submitted for the next 2 years going down what our schedule had been. So I apologize to each of you and to the community for missing the meetings. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Trustee Sakura?
Yeah, last Tuesday, the Friends of the Parks Board met. Some of the highlights are that we had music in the park this past Sunday. It was a bit warm, but there was a nice breeze. A good volunteer group was there. The band Moonshot was excellent. If you can see them at another location, please do. And we had about 100 people attended. Oshtemo Rotary sold water and popcorn, and the Oshtemo Historical Society had a table there also. Let's see, the next concert is Sunday, July 27th with the Tomas Esparza Blues Band. We also started guided nature walks with volunteer Lori Walsh. It's a new program this year. The first one was this past Saturday at Township Park. It was titled The Life Cycle of a Tree. Lori is an excellent speaker and very knowledgeable, making it a fun and interesting walk. These are another way for the Friends of the Parks to promote people's awareness and use of the parks. The next nature walk is Use Your Senses on July 19th at Flesher Field. I encourage you to attend. We're also planning a fall event at Drake Farmstead Park Sunday, September the 28th, along with the Oshtemo Historical Society, who will have free tours of the Drake House that day. We continue to have good turnout at our volunteer work days at the various parks. We spruced up Flesher Field for Sunday's concert. No experience is needed to help out, because that's why I'm there. And this Friday's, though, is canceled because of the heat. And we also discussed getting member logo shirts, since we only have Music in the Park t-shirts that don't work at events that are not Music in the Parks. So we want to make sure that people know that we're part of the Friends of the Parks group. And we also discussed, investigating swag items for our events and prizes, along with a branded tent and an updated banner. I also wanted to ask about the cemetery fence at Genesee Prairie, where it's all dented in, and that it's a very visible corner there, and whether we have any plans to get that fixed or replaced, or what we can do about that. It's just a very visible corner there for people going by. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
I'll talk with maintenance staff about the fence. We're kind of between repairing it, replacing it, because we have other sections that are missing. My vote was get rid of it altogether.
I do not support that.
No.
And there wasn't support for that.
I mean, it does
So
get
we're
hit a
sort of-
lot, but,
Yeah,
it's like,
so we're
well,
sort of in a holding pattern. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, shoot, thank you, Neil. Treasurer Bushka.
Not a lot, a little bit of PMN update earlier. Taxes income for the summer starts on July 1st. And then I just have a confirmation question. We mentioned at the last meeting that we were going to do the budgeting differently and bring it later, but then I noticed there's another meeting tomorrow, so I'm just looking for confirmation that that meeting's on tomorrow.
Yeah, it's AGVs tomorrow. I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to ask the board a question. Okay. Clerk Farmer.
I do not have any updates tonight.
Okay. Let's see, I was very happy to share that our new operations coordinator, which helps to support the supervisor's office, started this week, David. Yeah. Yeah, so, it's his second day today, so at some point we'll invite him to come to a meeting, but really, interviews went well. He seems like he's going to be a super talented guy and a great addition for the township, so I'm really excited about that. We're making progress on media and communications, hoping to make that a formal announcement soon. Tomorrow, yes, is AGVs. And what I wanted to ask the board, because we are going to start thinking about, like, you'll have some real numbers probably in the next 60 days or something. But is anybody interested? Do you want a copy of the Blue Line budget for 2025? Do you want, we can run a report for year-to-date spending, so we can see, look for trends, and maybe not so much for discussion tomorrow, but is it a document that you might want?
Yes.
Neil, you want both of those things? Okay.
I would too.
I just
Okay.
find it helpful as we keep going through iterations to see where we started. I know what was this about?
Right. So the year-to-date report will not look like the Blue Line, though. It looks more like what's the receipts and disbursements report. The other thing is, I think I sent it to you, but maybe not, but if you want a bound copy of the audit, just shoot a message and we will get that. Because the audit, they will provide a copy, so. Anyway, other than that, thanks for bringing up the AGV things in tomorrow's meeting. And I am very happy that Oshtemo was invited to have a seat at the table for the authority. That authority will expand beyond, it won't be just, the authority is really about it's the revenue or the projects that will move forward with the revenue from the new hotel tax. So it's more than just the sports complex. But I think, I think it puts us in a really great position to at least be a part of the conversation about how the infrastructure is going to get developed in that area. So with that, I think I can close this meeting, and I will see you all tomorrow.